Hi guys. So we have this question under momentum and collision. The question reads, in a particular car test, a car of mass 1500 kg collides with the wall as shown in the figure. So the initial and final velocities of the car, we have a negative 15 because it was moving to the left. Then we have a positive 2.5 after the collision. So the collision lasted for 0.15 seconds. So we're told to find the impulse caused by the collision as well as the net force exerted on the car. So we're going to consider before collision and after collision. So calculate the momentum initially and the momentum finally, that is after collision. So let's break it down. Let's see how we can break down this question. Okay, so for this question, let's roughly break it down to see what we've been given. Okay, so remember the mass. The mass is 1,500 kilograms. So the initial velocity, let's just write it as VI. Initial velocity is negative 15 meters per second. The final velocity, V final, is 2.60 meters per second. What else do we have? We've been given the time. Time in this case, which is 0.150 seconds. So what we're looking for, first of all, is the impulse. Now remember, impulse is the change in momentum. So what we're going to do for part A of the question, we're going to find the initial momentum. Remember, momentum is mass in motion. So mass times the initial velocity. So the mass is 1,500. The initial velocity is a negative 15. If we multiply these two, what we're getting is simply a negative 22,500 kg meters per second. So let's write it in standard form to be easier that way. So in standard form, this is negative 2.25 times 10 to the power 4 kgs meters per second. Okay. Let's find the final momentum after collision. So final momentum is m1 times v. Mass is still the same, 1,500. The final velocity in this case is 2.6. So if we multiply these two, what we're getting is 3,900. 900 kgs meters per second. And this will, in standard form, we can have it as 0.39 times 10 to the power 4 kgs meters per second. Okay. So now impulse is the change in momentum. So impulse is equals to the change in momentum. So the change in momentum is simply momentum final minus momentum initial. So impulse will be given by final momentum is 0.39 times 10 to the power 4 minus initial momentum is negative 2.25 times 10 to the power 4. Like that. So if we compute this, what we'll get as the impulse is simply 2.64 times 10 to the power 4. 10 to the power 4 kgs meters per second. So the other units for impulse is of course Newton second. That is if you multiply a force and the time. So the next part, we're looking for the force. Now to calculate the force exerted by the wall is given by the formula. Force is equals to the change in momentum over the change in time. So this is the formula for force. Now we know that, this implies that, we know that the change in momentum is simply impulse divided by the change in time. So the impulse that we've gotten here is this is supposed to be 2.64 times 10 to the power 4 divided by the time given was 0.150. So the force that we're going to obtain here, if I write it in standard form, will be 1.76 times 10 to the power 5 newtons. So the force 1.76 times 10 to the power 5 newtons. There we have it. So in case you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the comments and I'll be happy to respond. Have a good day.